Welcome back to another episode of Sal and Pals Go to the Movies. Touly is busy, so I will be reviewing Cyrano. So just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. Too self-conscious to woo Roxanne himself, Worth Smith, Cyrano the Bergerac, helps young Christian nab her heart through love letters. We finally got to review this movie after it got delayed, and I'm going to start off with my first pro. First pro is obviously Peter Dinklage. And of course, this movie is a musical, but I was more surprised with the sword fighting and how fluid it was than any musical number that I saw. Peter Dinklage did excel with his sword fighting, and I believe that comes to play because he was in Game of Thrones, so he had some extensive work or training in that. But yes, obviously I went to go see the movie because of Peter Dinklage. Next pro, I enjoyed the reimagining story of Cyrano character's design compared to previous character. The flaw was the big nose. For example, the one from 1990 in which Gerard Depardieu played Cyrano. He had obviously the big nose, and that's what it entailed. But in this one, it was different. It was basically the height. And Peter Dinklage played this so well. First, there was his height, but his acting kind of overcame that. And we felt that he was getting the short end of the stick because for everything else he excelled in. Sword fighting, ways with words. And you're like, if somebody can oversee that, then I don't think they're worth it. And that's when Christian comes in. He's the polar opposite. He's handsome, but he lacks ways with words. And obviously Roxanne is the girl who likes to get wooed through poetry and extensive long love letters, and that's what she yearns for. Next pro is obviously the musical idea works well with Cyrano since he is a poet and songs follow similar rules. Naturally, it would fit the theme. And if you actually notice, the three characters, Cyrano, Roxanne, and Christian, they have different range in their tones when they sing. Obviously, Peter is a lower tone, Roxanne is a high tone, and Christian is in the mid-range. I felt that they played this to that extent, and obviously, I'm pretty sure they gave a thought to who was going to be what. Next pro is the colors that were used, especially in costumes and in the set designs, are really natural. Nothing that stands out too much or grabs your attention. Is just subtle. It's just there and it plays and it blends in well with the scene. Same goes for the lighting. Nothing that's over the top or too elaborate, but at the same time, it just seems like it's a natural lighting that was used, but it's not the case. This brings me to my cons. Touching back on the idea of the musical, playing well with poetry, the concept fits well. Even some scenes had choreography that stood out. What this movie had in his flaws, just like Gerard Depardieu's nose in the 1990 film, that also could not be ignored, was that it was not consistent. I felt like some musical numbers didn't know if they were going to start or they were going to stop or they were going to continue. So it was a mixture, and I didn't know when a song number started or ended, or if it was in the middle or they were just taking a break. Same goes with the choreography. It started but ended shortly in some musical numbers. Just like I spoke about the tone range of the actors before, I felt that sometimes in some numbers Peter needed a little bit more singing lessons. Most of the songs were a letdown. The one that actually stood out the most to me was the one at the end that Take This Letter, close to the end when the soldiers were giving their letters and singing Heaven Is Where They Fall. That one was really impactful, but at the same time there was no choreography, but still it got through. And the reason it got through was because they focused on the person and also their song and their musical talent. But if you wanted choreography in that scene, you could have had the soldiers as they were preparing and giving their letters to a letter runner, and the drummer boy in the back drumming to the beat as other soldiers would prep the rifles in sync to the drummer as others sang. Now that would be a good combination of singing and choreography for the musical number. Next con is the ending death scene of Cyrano. First, Roxanne should have been not wearing white because that felt awkward. If you know what I'm talking about, in the 1990 movie, she went to the convent and she was dressed all in black, so that's kind of a fitting theme because she's a widow. Now back to the scene. Also, Cyrano's injury should have been explained more, or maybe shown the blood or the decay of his status. He was becoming weaker. His face could have been a different color. Play to that tone so we actually know that he's about to die and not just him saying that that's his last day. Second, I did not like that Roxanne actually kissed him because that actually confused me. I'm not against her accepting him. I'm actually rooting for him. I just don't like that after the kiss, he died. I would have liked it if the confession came first, then the acceptance, then Cyrano's dream finally comes true and he says, is this a dream and not real? But I did tell someone once that even a dream is sometimes real when it's being dreamt, but I want to know that I'm not dreaming. To which Roxanne replies, what will prove that this is not a dream? And his answer is, but at last, a kiss, that shall prove to myself that I'm not dreaming. Then Roxanne says, then I shall prove to you that you are not dreaming. As she walks towards him, he collapses and whispers whispers, "Why must I wake up from such a lovely dream?" and sighs and then dies. And Roxanne then cries over him as she holds him and the bloody letter in her hand. With that, it just gives it a more impact that he never really got what he wanted, but at the end he was still happy that she accepted him. And a kiss doesn't mean anything, but just the fact that she accepted him meant the world to him. Overall, I felt that this movie didn't know if it needed songs or choreography, and some of the actors needed singing lessons to make it a real musical. I did really enjoy Peter's acting, but not all of his singing. The way that he dominated words was like watching Tyrion Lannister speak, but instead of speaking of power, he was speaking of love. And the ending could have been a little better. Also, I understand that Peter's wife, Erica, was the one who wrote part of the screenplay, and it's based off the stage musical, but this needed a little bit more workaround. It needed to be more well executed in part of the actual implication that this is sort of a musical or based on a musical stage play. I wanted more music combined with choreography to make the actors shine in the roles. And if the music would be playing and everybody would be singing and then stop, then you had dialogue, that would be a good thing. Except here you mixed all of it together and you didn't know when the song started or when it ended. So I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 10. So I guess that does it for this review of Cyrano. Please join us next time when we still don't know which movie we're going to review. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.